Welcome to my channel. Before we begin, I want you to feel this moment. Imagine what it would be like to wake up one morning and realize you've missed something important in your life. Maybe it's the simple feeling of contentment that you lack right now, or perhaps it's words left unsaid to your loved ones, but we have the opportunity to change that now. Feel the possibilities, sense how the energy of change already surrounds you. But before we begin, if you love your grandchildren, children, and those dear to you, be sure to subscribe to our channel to bring luck and well-being into their lives. It's simple, but so important. Now let's begin our story, which could change your life. Have you ever wondered what it means to live a worthy life in your later years? Why do so many people, upon reaching 60 or even 70 years old, suddenly feel unnecessary and lost? This feeling is familiar to many of us, but today you'll learn a way to overcome it. First, let me share the story of one man from a small village far from the hustle and bustle of cities. He was 75 years old and thought that the most important parts of his life were behind him. But one encounter changed everything. Don't miss what's next, because the most important part is at the end of this video. This man, whose name was Ivan, had felt empty. For a long time every morning he would wake up, look out the window and wonder what's next. Why am I living? His children had long grown up. His grandchildren visited him rarely, and although his health allowed him to tend his garden, it didn't give him the same energy it once did. One day, while walking in the forest, Ivan met a woman named Maria, who was in her 60s. She looked remarkably calm and confident, as if she knew something he didn't. "Why are you so calm?" He couldn't help but ask. Maria smiled. "I've learned to live in harmony with myself and the world around me," she said. "I can share a secret with you that helps me find joy every day." Ivan was intrigued and ready to hear her advice. "What's the secret?" he asked. "It's a ritual I perform every evening before bed. It CS my mind of heavy thoughts, helps me feel connected to life and fills me with energy," Maria explained. She said all she needed for the ritual was a can, clean water, and a few minutes of silence. She showed Ivan how she would light the candle, pour water into a glass, and sit in front of them. "I look at the flame and in my mind say all the bad leaves and the good remains. Then I take the water and say, 'Let this water fill me with strength and health.' Afterward I take 3 small sips," she explained. Ivan listened intently. "It sounds so simple," he remarked. "Yes, but that's the power of it. Simplicity helps us focus on what's important. The most important part is still to come, so don't switch off." This story could change how you see things. Ivan decided to try the ritual that very evening. He lit the candle, poured water into a glass, and sat in front of them. The room was quiet, yet only the faint crackle of the candle flame filled the space. He repeated Maria's words, "All the bad leaves and the good remains." Then he looked at the water and added, "Let this water fill me with strength and health." After taking 3 small sips, he felt something unusual. "This feels strange, but I really do feel a sense of relief." Ivan thought his thoughts about the past and missed opportunities began to slowly fade the next morning and felt an unusual lightness. He got up earlier than usual and went for a walk. He wanted to revisit the forest where he had met Maria walking among the trees. He began noticing beauty he had previously overlooked, how the sunlight filtered through the leaves, how the wind whispered its stories. When he met Maria again, he said, "Your ritual really works, but tell me, is there something else that helps you maintain such harmony?" Maria nodded. "This is just the first step. True strength lies in remembering that our energy returns to us through how we treat ourselves and others." She offered Ivan another practice every evening. Before bed, he was to recall 3 things he was grateful for. That day, gratitude, she said, is the key to in peace. Even on the hardest days, there is always at least one small thing to be thankful for. At first, Ivan found it difficult to identify anything he was genuinely grateful for, but within a week, he noticed his mood beginning to change. He started seeing joy in small things: the neighbor's smile, pleasant weather, the fresh aroma of the bread he had baked himself. But that's not all we'll tell you. What else changed in Ivan's life and why it can help each of you. Ivan noticed that his days began to feel more meaningful. He started paying more attention to himself and his health. If I want to live long and happily, he thought, I need to take care of my body and soul. He began moving more, walking around the village and helping his neighbors with their chores. He even felt that these small actions were rejuvenating him. However, the biggest change was in his attitude toward life. He now saw each day as an opportunity. One day, Maria approached him again and said, Ivan, you look better than when we first met. But remember, change takes time and patience. She taught him enough. Another important step: every morning, she said, when you wake up, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am valuable, I am worthy, I am capable. This will help strengthen your self-confidence. At first, Ivan felt awkward saying these words aloud, especially in front of a mirror. It's silly, he thought, but he gave it a try. To his surprise, within a few days, he felt the words starting to sink into his consciousness. Now, when he looked in the mirror, he didn't just see an elderly man, but a wise one with a wealth of life experience. Ivan began to notice that others' attitudes toward him were also changing. Neighbors invited him for tea more often, and his children and grandchildren started calling him more frequently. His positivity and confidence seemed to draw people to him like a magnet. One day, during a walk, Ivan met a young man who looked upset. The young man confided that he was going through tough times and didn't know how to cope. Remembering Maria's advice, Ivan told him, start with gratitude, give them thanks to the world. The young man listened carefully, though skepticism was evident in his eyes. How can gratitude help me when my life feels like a series of failures? He asked. Ivan smiled. I used to think the same, but start small. It could be something simple, a warm, sunny day, a good meal, or a stranger's smile. Everything changes with time. The young man nodded and promised to try. A few days later they met again, and the young man admitted, I've started a gratitude journal. At first it was hard, but now I already feel better. Thank you for your advice. Ivan realized that his experiences and wisdom were helping not just himself, but others as well. Soon the entire village knew about him. People began coming to him for advice, asking Ivan, how did you regain joy in your life? How can we deal with loneliness, fear, or exhaustion? Ivan willingly shared what he had learned from Maria. Start with the simple things, he would say, the ritual with water and a candle, gratitude, and positive affirmations. These practices may seem insignificant, but over time they change your life. Maria, seeing Ivan's transformation, suggested another ritual. We are surrounded by the energy of nature. She said that the trees, grass, and water can all fill us with strength if we learn to open ourselves to it. She showed him how to meditate in nature, sitting under a tree, touching the ground with his hands, and imagining the earth's energy flowing into his body, filling him with warmth and calm. Ivan tried it, and it became his favorite practice. Every morning he spent a few minutes under his favorite tree, feeling a deep sense of peace and confidence. Over the following months, the village began to undergo amazing changes. People who had once seemed withdrawn and burdened by their problems now appeared happier and more energetic. Neighbors shared stories about the rituals and practices they had learned from Ivan. Some started with gratitude or evening rituals, while others, inspired by Ian's example, ventured into nature to feel the earth's energy. Each person found what worked best for them. One day, a journalist from a nearby city visited the village. He had heard about the changes happening among the locals and wanted to share their story. "This isn't magic," Ivan said with a smile. "It's simply a desire to live mindfully and take care of yourself and your inner world. Too often we forget that happiness starts within us." The journalist wrote an article about the village and its remarkable residents who had transformed their lives with simple practices. The story quickly spread online and drew attention from many people. Soon Ivan began receiving letters from strangers thanking him for his advice and sharing how his story had inspired them to make change in their lives. Some wrote that starting their day with gratitude had helped them overcome depression. Others shared how rituals with water or meditations in nature had restored their joy for life. Hearing this, Maria smiled and said, "See, Ivan, your efforts are bearing fruit. You're helping not just yourself, but countless others." Ivan reflected on this. He felt that his life had found a new purpose. Now he wasn't just living, he was inspiring others to change months past, and even encouraged by the transformations in his life and the lives of those around him, decided to delve deeper into practices that promote happiness and health in old age. He turned to Maria for more advice. "You've already changed so much," she said, "but there's one more thing that can amplify your energy. Conscious acts of kindness. When you give something from the heart, you receive much more in return." Ivan thought about this and remembered the young man he had encouraged to keep a gratitude journal, the neighbors he had inspired to take evening walks, and the rituals he had shared. It became clear to him that his strength lay in health helping others. He started gathering people from his village. They met in the evenings to share their successes and struggles, discussing how they had overcome life's challenges. They called these gathering circles of wisdom. Each meeting began with a small ritual, lighting a candle, axing gratitude, and sharing thoughts. People felt connected to one another, united by a shared energy. Soon the circles of wisdom became popular, not just in Ivan's village, but in neighboring ones. Two people traveled from afar to hear Ivan's stories and learned simple yet powerful practices. One evening, during a gathering, a man in his 40s approached Ivan. His face was tired, but there was hope in his eyes. "I've heard about you," he said. "My life is at a dead end. I've lost my job and feel like I can't change anything. What should I do?" Ivan gently smiled. "Start with gratitude, as I did every morning and evening. Find at least one thing you can be thankful for. And remember, helping others is a way to restore your energy." The man nodded and promised to try. A few weeks later, he returned to the gathering. His face no longer bore the same tiredness. "I started with gratitude," he said, "and then I began helping my neighbors. At first it felt strange, but the more I gave, the more energy I felt." Ivan smiled. He knew the man was only at the beginning of his journey, but he had taken the first step toward a new, happier phase of his life. Time passed, and Ivan saw how his life and the lives of those around him continued to change. His village became a place where people came for inspiration and support. The circles of wisdom helped not just the elderly, but also the younger generation who were searching for their place in the world, but never forgot where it all began. Every evening he lit his candle, poured a glass of water, and said the same words. All the bad leaves and the good remains, he felt. How this simple ritual continued to fill him with energy and harmony. One evening, as he looked at the candle flame, Ivan thought, "If I could change my life, then anyone can." It all starts with something small, with one step. He knew his journey wasn't over. He was full of energy to continue sharing his wisdom, helping others find joy and inspiration. And now I ask you, dear listeners, what first step are you ready to take today to change your life? Think about it. Maybe it's gratitude for something simple. Maybe it's helping a loved one or starting a small ritual before bed. Remember the power to change. Your reality is always in your hand. Thanks for watching.